The great hall of the Galactic Council felt empty. Taemin walked slowly across the polished floor, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Above him, the dome showed the stars of 1,000 worlds, but something was missing. The seats where humans used to sit were covered with black cloth. They had been empty for 50 years. Taemin was tall for his people, the Velkans. His blue skin had silver markings that showed his high rank. As ambassador of the Velkan Republic, he had seen many council meetings, but none like this one. Today, they would talk about the biggest problem the galaxy had ever faced. Other beings filled the remaining seats. There were the tall, thin Sylvans with their green skin and large eyes. The water-breathing Marins sat in their special tanks, their tentacles moving as they spoke through translators. The rocky Korath warriors stood at attention, their armor gleaming. But where humans should have been, there was only empty space. "The emergency session will begin," Taemin announced. His voice carried to every corner of the hall through the translation system. "We are here to discuss the crisis that threatens us all." A Marin named Hana moved forward in her water tank. She had been trained by humans 50 years ago. Her people lived in the oceans of their world, but Hana had learned to speak with air-breathing species. The humans had taught her well. "The numbers are clear," Hana said. Her voice bubbled through the water, but the translator made it clean and sharp. "Since the humans disappeared, our galaxy has been falling apart. Trade between worlds has dropped by 60%. Wars have started in places that were peaceful for hundreds of years. The Sylvan worlds are being attacked, and we cannot stop it." A Sylvan delegate stood up. His name was Jun-Ho, and his people were known for being gentle and wise. But now his large eyes were full of fear. "My people are being taken as slaves. We cannot fight the Korath Empire alone. The humans always helped us solve these problems without war. Now we have no one to turn to." The Korath general, Minsu, laughed. It was a harsh sound that made others uncomfortable. His people were strong fighters, but not good at thinking about peace. The humans were weak. They talked too much instead of fighting. "We do not need them." "Then why are your own border worlds burning?" asked another voice. It came from Jinwoo, a being made of living crystal. His people could think very fast and remember everything. "Your empire fights 3 wars now because you cannot make peace like humans did. Your soldiers die every day." Minsu's face grew red, but he said nothing. Everyone knew Jinwoo spoke the truth. Hana continued reading her report. "The Galactic Defense Force has lost most battles in the past 5 years. Without human tacticians, we cannot plan good strategies. Pirate attacks have increased by 400%. Trade ships are afraid to travel the old routes." Taemin looked around the hall. Fear was on every face. For thousands of years, different species had fought each other. Then humans arrived. They were not the strongest or the smartest, but they had something special. They could make enemies become friends. They could solve problems that seemed impossible. "There is something else," Jinwoo said. His crystal body began to glow brighter, which meant he was excited or worried. "I have studied the human disappearance for 50 years. I was taught by human scientists before they vanished. What happened to them makes no sense." The hall became very quiet. Everyone wanted to hear this. "Every human in the galaxy disappeared at exactly the same moment," Jinwoo explained. "Not just on Earth or the colonies. Every human on every ship, every station, every world. Even the ones traveling between stars. All gone in 1 second." "That is impossible," said a delegate from the Nexus Collective. Her name was Subin, and her people were part machine, part living being. No force in the galaxy could reach everywhere at once. "But it happened," Jinwoo insisted. "I have checked every record, every sensor, every witness report. At Galactic Standard Time 154207, every human simply vanished. No explosion, no energy signature, no sign of struggle. They were there, then they were not." The hall erupted in worried voices. Species that rarely agreed on anything were all asking the same questions. How could this happen? Where did the humans go? Why did they leave no message? Taemin raised his hand for silence. "There is more we must discuss. Show them the economic reports." Hana activated a holographic display that filled the center of the hall. Numbers and charts appeared in the air, showing trade routes, economic growth, and population data. "Before humans arrived, our galaxy was always at war," Hana explained. "Different species fought for resources, territory, and power. The humans changed this. They created the neutral trade zones. They made the peace accords that ended the Great Wars. They built the communication networks that let us talk to each other." The display showed how trade had grown under human guidance. Peaceful worlds became rich. Wars became rare. Species that had been enemies for millions of years learned to work together. But now look, Hana said sadly. The display changed to show recent data. Without humans to maintain the peace, old hatreds have returned. The Korath Empire attacks its neighbors. The Syndicate pirates grow bolder every day. 3 sectors are in open war. It is worse than that, added another voice. The speaker was Do-Yun, a member of the Ember Folk. His people were small and furry like the humans' pet animals, but they were very smart. Humans had helped his species learn space travel just decades before they disappeared. My people remember what the humans taught us, Do-Yun said. They said the galaxy was like a big machine with many parts. Every species was important, but someone had to keep the parts working together. The humans made themselves into that someone. Without them, the machine is breaking down. Taemin nodded. He had feared this day would come. We must face the truth. We became dependent on humans without realizing it. They were the teachers, the peacekeepers, the problem solvers. We let them carry burdens that should have been shared by all of us. So what do we do now? Asked Minsu. For the first time, the proud Korath warrior sounded worried instead of angry. We try to learn, Taemin replied. We try to become what the humans were for us. But first we must find out what happened to them. If they are in danger, we must help them as they helped us. If they chose to leave, we must understand why. The hall fell silent again. Outside the great dome, the stars continued to shine. But without humans among them, the galaxy felt darker and more dangerous than it had for centuries. As the session ended, delegates from dozens of worlds walked away with heavy hearts. They all knew the same truth, even if none wanted to say it out loud. The galaxy was dying without its human guardians, and they had no idea how to save it. In the empty human section, the black cloth stirred slightly in the air currents. It almost looked like ghosts of the missing species were still there, watching sadly as their friends struggled without them. Captain Sunja stood on the bridge of her ship, the Seeker, and looked at the strange readings on her screens. 5 years had passed since the emergency council meeting, and the galaxy had only gotten worse. Wars raged in 7 sectors now. Entire species were going extinct. But Sunja had not given up hope of finding the humans. Her ship was special. The Galactic Council had given her the best technology from dozens of worlds. Her crew included beings from 20 different species, all of them survivors who had been saved by humans in the past. They all shared the same desperate wish to find their missing saviors. Captain, called out her science officer, a crystalline being named Yuna. We are approaching the coordinates from the last human transmission. The signal came from this area 55 years ago. Sunja nodded. They were in the Perseus arm of the galaxy, far from any major star systems. This was the edge of known space where only the bravest explorers dared to go. The last humans to send a message had been the crew of the exploration ship Determination. Then, like all other humans, they had simply vanished. What do the sensors show? Sunja asked. Minho, her engineer, was a member of the Void Walkers. His people could survive in space without ships, and they understood energy better than most species. The humans had taught them how to manipulate stars and planets. There is something very large ahead, Minho reported. His voice sounded confused. But it should not exist. The readings make no sense. On the main screen, space looked empty, just the dim light of distant stars and the faint glow of cosmic dust. But as they got closer, their instruments detected something impossible. Captain, Yuna said, her crystal body flashing with excitement. There is a structure orbiting the dying star ahead. It is massive, bigger than any space station ever built. Sunja felt her heart beat faster. Can you identify what species built it? The materials are familiar, Minho answered. But the design is unlike anything in our databases. Wait, there are some patterns that look like human engineering, but far more advanced than anything they had when they disappeared. The Seeker moved closer to the mysterious structure. As it came into view, the crew gasped. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Curved metal beams stretched for hundreds of kilometers, forming geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Energy flowed through the structure like blood through veins, glowing with colors that had no names. Life signs? Sunja asked. None that I can detect, Yuna replied. But there are active computer systems throughout the structure. Some of them are trying to communicate with us. Sunja made her decision. Prepare a shuttle. We are going aboard. The docking bay they found was clearly designed for human ships. Everything was the right size and shape. but the technology was centuries ahead of what humans had possessed 50 years ago. Somehow, in the time they had been missing, they had made incredible advances. Inside the structure, the air was clean and breathable. Lights came on as the team moved through the corridors. Everything was pristine, as if the builders had just left. "There," pointed Sang-mi, the team's cultural expert. She was one of the gentle Ember folk, and her people had loved humans like family. That is human writing. They entered a large chamber filled with holographic displays and computer terminals. As Sunja approached the central console, it activated automatically. A three-dimensional image appeared in the air above them. It was a human woman, middle-aged with kind eyes and graying hair. She wore the uniform of a scientist with symbols that marked her as a doctor of xenobiology. "I am Dr. Yoonji Kim," the recording began. "If you are watching this, then we have been gone for some time, and you have found one of our research stations. I hope you are well, my friends. I hope the galaxy still knows peace." Sunja felt tears in her eyes. After 5 years of searching, they had finally found a message from the missing humans. The hologram continued. "We discovered something terrible, a signal from the galactic core, sent by a dying race called the Architects. They were the ones who seeded our galaxy with life billions of years ago, but they also left us a warning." The display changed to show a map of the galaxy. Dark areas spread from the outer rim toward the center like a disease. "Something is coming from the void between galaxies," Dr. Kim explained. "A wave of destructive energy that extinguishes stars and destroys all life. The Architects tried to stop it long ago and failed. They could only delay it and hope that younger species would find a better solution." The team watched in horror as the simulation showed star after star going dark. Entire sectors of the galaxy simply ceased to exist. "We calculated that the wave would reach our galaxy in approximately 60 years from when we received the message," the recording continued. "We could have warned the other species, but it would have caused panic and chaos. Wars would have started as everyone fought for resources to escape. Billions would have died in the chaos alone." Sunja understood now. The humans had faced an impossible choice: tell everyone and watch the galaxy tear itself apart, or find another way. "So we chose to carry this burden ourselves," Dr. Kim said with sad pride. "Every human in the galaxy volunteered for a mission beyond the galactic rim. We are using prototype technology that pushes the limits of what is possible. Our goal is to build a defense network in the void between galaxies." The hologram showed images of human ships unlike anything Sunja had ever seen. They were beautiful and alien, as if the humans had transformed themselves and their technology into something new. "The process changes us," Dr. Kim admitted. "To build defenses on such a massive scale, we must link our minds and bodies with the technology itself. We become something more than human, but we remain who we are in our hearts. We do this gladly to protect the worlds and people we love." The recording began to fade. "If you find this message, it means our time is running short. The wave is coming faster than we expected. Look for the signs in your outer rim systems. Stars will begin to flicker and die. When that happens, you will have perhaps months before the destruction reaches the galactic core." Dr. Kim's image smiled one last time. "Do not despair, dear friends. We have not abandoned you. We are still fighting, still working to save our galaxy, but we may need your help. Learn from what we have left behind. Become more than you were. Together we can save not just our galaxy, but all the life in the universe." The hologram disappeared, leaving the team in stunned silence. "Captain," Yuna said quietly, "I am detecting massive data archives throughout this station. Technical specifications, scientific research, cultural records. The humans left us everything they learned." But Sunja was looking at another display that had activated. It showed current readings from the galactic rim. Her blood turned cold as she recognized the patterns Dr. Kim had described. Several outer rim stars were already flickering. The wave of destruction had arrived ahead of schedule, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. "We have to get back," Sunja said urgently. "We have to warn the Council. The humans were trying to save us all along, and we are running out of time." As the Seeker left the mysterious station behind, Sunja wondered if they would reach home in time to make a difference. The humans had sacrificed everything to protect the galaxy. Now it was up to the rest of them to prove worthy of that sacrifice. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos when Captain Sunja finished her report. Delegates from hundreds of worlds shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some called the humans heroes, Others called them traitors who had abandoned their duties. Chancellor Wu Jin of the Trade Federation stood up, his face red with anger. His people were known for being practical and focused on profit, but now he seemed terrified. How dare they? Wu Jin shouted. The humans made this decision for all of us without asking. They had no right to leave us defenseless while they played hero in empty space. They saved us from panic and chaos, argued Delegate Hana from her water tank. If everyone had known about this threat 50 years ago, the galaxy would have torn itself apart. At least this way we had peace until now. Peace built on lies, snapped General Minsu of the Karath Empire. The warrior's pride was wounded by the idea that humans had secretly protected everyone. We could have prepared. We could have built our own defenses. With what knowledge? Asked Jinwu, his crystal body flashing with irritation. The humans were centuries ahead of us in technology. Even now, looking at what they left behind, we barely understand the basics of their work. While the delegates argued, Sunja noticed that some beings were not speaking. They were the scientists and researchers who had worked closest with humans. Their faces showed fear, not anger. Dr. Subin, a cybernetic researcher from the Nexus Collective, finally stood up. Half of her body was mechanical, the other half organic. She had learned to combine technology with living tissue by studying human medical advances. We need to stop arguing and start working, Subin said firmly. I have been analyzing the data Captain Sunja brought back. The threat is real and it is already here. She activated the chamber's main display. The holographic image showed the outer rim of the galaxy. Several star systems were marked in red. These stars have gone dark in the past month, Subin explained. Not exploded, not collapsed into black holes. They simply stopped burning. All energy production has ceased, leaving dead planets orbiting cold, dark cores. The chamber fell silent. Even the proudest delegates could not argue with what they were seeing. How long do we have? Asked Timon quietly. At the current rate of expansion, the wave will reach the galactic core in 18 months, Subin answered. But the acceleration is increasing. I estimate we have perhaps 12 months before major population centers are affected. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It is worse than that. The speaker was Yuna, the crystalline being who had accompanied Sunja to the human station. I have been studying the technical data the humans left behind. Their defensive technology exists, but it requires something we may not be able to provide. What do you mean? Asked Taemin. Yuna's body began to glow brighter as she accessed her vast memory storage. The humans called it neural integration. To operate their defensive network, living beings must link their minds directly with the technology. Not just one or two individuals, but entire populations working in perfect coordination across thousands of light years, and that sounds like what happened to the humans themselves, observed Hana. Dr. Kim said the process changed them. Exactly, Yuna confirmed. To save the galaxy, they became something beyond their original nature. The question is whether we are willing to make the same sacrifice. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. A communications officer rushed in with urgent news. Chancellor Taemin, the officer gasped, we are receiving distress calls from the hegemony of Scales, their primary colony world. The star has gone out. 12 billion beings are trapped on a world without light or heat. The chamber erupted again, but this time the shouts were not angry but terrified. The hegemony of Scales was one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Their worlds were well defended and far from the outer rim. If the destructive wave had reached them, nowhere was safe. General Minsu stood up slowly. For the first time since Sunja had known him, the proud warrior looked defeated. My empire's border fleets were patrolling that sector yesterday, he said quietly. We lost contact with them 6 hours ago. I thought it was a communication problem. We need to begin evacuation procedures immediately, Taemin announced. All worlds in the affected sectors must be warned. Evacuate to where? Asked Wu Jin bitterly. This thing is consuming entire star systems. There is nowhere to run. Dr. Subin stepped forward again. There is the human technology. I have been studying their incomplete blueprints. The defensive network could work, but it would require every species in the galaxy to contribute their unique abilities. She activated another display showing the technical specifications Sunja had recovered. The designs were incredibly complex, far beyond anything any single species could build. The aquatic marins have the computational power to coordinate such a massive network, Subin explained. The crystalline species like Yuna can store and process the enormous amounts of data required. My people, the Nexus Collective, can provide the cybernetic interfaces needed for neural linking. And the Ember folk can provide the most important component, added a small voice. Elder Sangmi stepped forward. Her people were among the youngest species in the galaxy, uplifted by humans just decades before the disappearance. What can your people offer that we cannot? Asked Minsu, not unkindly but with genuine curiosity. Sangmi smiled sadly. We remember what the humans taught us. They said that true strength comes not from being powerful, but from being willing to sacrifice for others. They called it becoming more than yourself for others. The chamber grew quiet as the small, furry being continued speaking. My people have oral traditions that preserve every lesson the humans taught us. While you advanced species were learning technology and tactics, we were learning about unity, sacrifice, and love. The humans knew that their defensive network would require more than just machines and calculations. It would require beings willing to give up their individual existence for the greater good. You are talking about dying, said Wujin flatly. No, Sangmi replied. We are talking about transformation. The humans did not die when they linked with their technology. They became something greater while remaining who they were in their hearts. But it does require giving up the life you knew before. As if summoned by her words, another alarm sounded. This time it was even more urgent. A second communications officer ran into the chamber. The wave has accelerated again, the officer announced breathlessly. 3 more star systems have gone dark in the past hour. At this rate we have weeks, not months. Taemin looked around the chamber at the faces of beings from hundreds of worlds. Fear and desperation were visible on every face, but he also saw something else. For the first time in 50 years, the different species were not arguing with each other. They were looking to each other for help. We have a choice, Taemin said finally. We can flee and watch our galaxy die piece by piece, or we can follow the path the humans showed us. We can transform ourselves into something capable of fighting this threat. Even if we agree, Yuna pointed out. We do not fully understand the technology. The humans had decades to develop and test their systems. We have weeks at most. Then we begin immediately, Subin declared. We start with what we know and learn as we build. The humans left us enough information to begin. We must trust that we can discover the rest as we work together. The vote was not even close. Faced with extinction, every species chose to follow humanity's example. They would attempt to build the defensive network, even knowing it might transform them beyond recognition. As delegates rushed away to begin the greatest project in galactic history, Sangmi remained behind in the empty chamber. She looked up at the stars visible through the dome and whispered a prayer her people had learned from humans long ago. Help us become worthy of your sacrifice. Help us find the strength to do what must be done. In the distance, another star flickered and went dark. Commander Do-Yun stood in the command center of the largest evacuation fleet in galactic history. Around him, beings from dozens of species worked frantically at control stations, coordinating the movement of billions of refugees. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see ships of every size and design fleeing toward the galactic core, but he knew they were only buying time. Status report, Do-Yun called out to his communications officer. 60% of the Outer Rim populations have been evacuated, replied Hyejin, a Marin whose water-filled suit allowed her to work alongside air-breathing species. But the wave is moving faster than our evacuation ships. We are losing the race, Do-Yun nodded grimly. His people, the Korath, were known as warriors, but this was an enemy that could not be fought with weapons. Each day brought reports of more dead star systems. Entire civilizations were being erased from existence. What about the defense project? He asked. Dr. Subin reports that construction has begun on 70 installations across the galaxy, Hyejin answered. But the work is going slowly. Each installation requires perfect coordination between multiple species, and the technology is still not fully understood. A new voice spoke from behind them. Perhaps I can help with that. Do-Yun turned to see Elder Sangmi approaching. The small, furry being looked tired but determined. Behind her walked several other members of the Ember folk, carrying data tablets and ancient-looking books. Elder, Do-Yun said respectfully, you should be with your people on the evacuation ships. My people are where they need to be, Sangmi replied. Some are helping with the evacuations. Others are working on the defense installations. But I have something more important to share with you. She activated a portable holographic projector. Images appeared in the air showing humans working alongside Ember folk on a peaceful world. The recording was old, made decades before the human disappearance. After the humans uplifted us, they spent years teaching us about cooperation and sacrifice, Sang-mi explained. They knew that technology alone was not enough to build a lasting civilization. They taught us about the connections between all living things. The hologram showed humans and Ember folk sitting in circles, sharing stories and songs. It looked like a simple cultural exchange, but Do-yeon could see there was something deeper happening. They were preparing us, Sang-mi continued, not just for spaceflight and science, but for the day when we might need to give everything to save others. They called it the lesson of unity. I do not understand, Do-yeon admitted. Watch, Sang-mi said, changing the holographic display. The new image showed the construction of a human space station. But instead of using machines and robots, humans were working directly with the materials, their hands glowing with energy as they shaped metal and crystal through some kind of mental connection. The humans were already changing themselves 50 years before they disappeared, Sang-mi explained. They were learning to merge their consciousness with technology. This is what allowed them to build their defensive network. Do-yeon felt his heart sink. Are you saying we must all become like that? Give up our physical forms? Not give up, Sang-mi corrected. Transform. Expand. Become more than we were while remaining who we are. Before Do-yeon could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. A technician called out urgently, "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the Perseus research station. Dr. Subin says she has made a breakthrough." The main screen activated, showing Subin's cybernetic face, half machine and half organic. She looked exhausted but excited. "Commander Do-yeon, we have successfully tested the first neural interface," Subin reported. "I volunteered to be the first test subject. The connection works, but there are complications." "What kind of complications?" Do-yeon asked. Subin's expression became difficult to read. When she spoke, her voice sounded different, as if multiple people were talking at once. "I am still me, but I am also more than me. I can feel the installation systems as if they were part of my body. I can sense the approach of the destructive wave like a cold wind. But I can also feel something else, a presence in the network." "What do you mean?" asked Hyejin. "I think the humans are still connected to their technology," Subin explained. "When I linked with our installation, I felt echoes of their network. They are out there beyond the rim, still fighting, but they are running out of power." Do-yeon felt a surge of hope mixed with desperation. "Can you contact them?" "Not directly. The distance is too great and our installation is too small. But if we can complete the galaxy-wide network, if we can get enough beings to undergo the neural linking process, we might be able to join our defenses with theirs." "How many people would need to volunteer?" Sang-mi asked. Subin was quiet for a moment, accessing calculations through her technological connection. "Millions. From every species, on every world. The network requires a critical mass of linked consciousness to function properly." The command center fell silent. Do-yeon looked around at his crew, seeing fear and doubt on every face. How could they ask millions of beings to give up their individual existence for an uncertain chance of survival? "I will do it," said a voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see Jin-woo, the crystalline scientist, stepping forward. His faceted body was glowing with determination. "My people can store vast amounts of information," Jin-woo explained. "If I undergo the linking process, I can help coordinate the network across multiple star systems. It is what I was trained for. And I will join you," added Yuna, another crystalline being who had been working with the research team. "My people have already discussed this. We are willing to sacrifice our individual existence to save the galaxy." More voices spoke up around the room. Beings from different species began volunteering, inspired by the example of the crystalline scientists. But it was Sang-mi who surprised them all. "The Ember folk will provide the foundation for the network," she announced. "We have been preparing for this moment since the humans first taught us about unity. Our entire population of 2 billion beings will undergo the linking process." Do-yeon stared at her in shock. "Your entire species?" "That is what the humans would have done," Sang-mi finished. "What they did do, in fact. They sacrificed their individual existence to protect all of us. We can do no less." The next few days passed in a blur of frantic activity. Word spread across the galaxy about the volunteer network. Despite the risks and the unknowns, beings from every species stepped forward. Some did it out of heroism, others out of desperation, but all of them were inspired by the example the humans had set 50 years earlier. The installation sites became centers of transformation. Volunteers arrived by the thousands, ready to link their consciousness with the defensive technology. The process was difficult and sometimes painful, but it worked. Slowly, a new kind of awareness began to spread across the galaxy. Do-Yun watched from his command ship as the first major test began. 100,000 linked beings across 50 star systems attempted to coordinate their consciousness into a single defensive action. The results were beyond anything they had hoped for. Energy flowed between the installations like lightning, creating barriers that slowed and deflected the approaching wave of destruction. For the first time since the crisis began, they were not just running away. They were fighting back. "It is working," Subin reported, her voice now clearly speaking for thousands of linked minds. "But we need more power, more coordination." "The wave is still advancing. How much more?" Do-Yun asked. "Everything," Subin replied simply. "Every installation, every volunteer, every species working as one. And even then, we may not be strong enough. But perhaps if we can link with the human network." Do-Yun made his decision. "Signal all evacuation fleets. All personnel who are willing will undergo the linking process. We will bet everything on this one chance." As he gave the order, Do-Yun thought about the humans who had made this same choice 50 years ago. They had given up everything to protect people they might never see again. Now it was time for the rest of the galaxy to prove worthy of that sacrifice. The transformation had begun. The galaxy had become something new. 3 months had passed since the Great Linking began, and millions of beings across thousands of worlds now shared a connected consciousness. The defense network pulsed with combined energy from every major species, creating barriers of light that pushed back against the wave of darkness consuming the stars. Captain Sunja no longer commanded her ship in the traditional way. Her consciousness was linked with the network, allowing her to see and feel the entire galaxy at once. She could sense the crystalline minds of Yuna and Jinwoo processing vast calculations, the aquatic thoughts of the Marins coordinating defensive patterns, and the warm unity of the Ember folk providing emotional strength to the whole network. "Status report," she thought, and instantly received information from 1,000 sources. The defense grid was holding, but barely. The destructive wave had slowed but not stopped. Energy readings showed critical stress points throughout the network. Most concerning of all, they were running out of power. Even with millions of linked minds working together, they could not generate enough energy to stop the cosmic threat completely. "We need more," came the collective voice of Dr. Subin, speaking for the cybernetic nodes of the network. "The calculations are clear. At current power levels, we can delay the destruction but not prevent it." Sunja felt the shared despair of billions of minds. They had followed the human example, sacrificed their individual existence, and transformed themselves into something greater. But it still was not enough. Then something changed. At the edge of sensor range, new energy signatures appeared. Ships unlike anything in their databases were approaching from the void between galaxies. But somehow Sunja knew exactly what they were. "The humans," she whispered through the network. "They are coming home." The lead ship was massive beyond comprehension. It had once been the exploration vessel Determination, but 50 years in the void had transformed it into something magnificent. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, covered in patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal space allowed. Energy cascaded through its structure like a river of stars. A communication reached the galactic network, but not through normal radio waves. It came directly into their linked consciousness, warm and familiar despite the vast changes time had wrought. "Hello, old friends," came the voice. It was Captain Bo-Ra of the Determination, but her consciousness now spanned light years. "We felt your call across the darkness. We are here to help." Sunja tried to respond but found herself overwhelmed by the scope of what the humans had become. Bo-Ra's mind touched hers gently, sharing images and understanding. For 50 years, humanity had existed in the void between galaxies, not just building defenses but transforming themselves into guardians of cosmic life. They had learned to exist as both individuals and a collective, maintaining their essential humanity while gaining the power to protect entire galaxies. "You have done well." Bora continued, her voice filled with pride and love. You learned the lesson we tried to teach. You became more than yourselves for others. But now let us finish this together. The human fleet spread out across the galaxy, their transformed ships linking with the defense installations. Immediately, the network's power increased 1,000-fold. The barriers of light grew stronger and brighter, pushing back the wave of destruction with renewed force. But the humans brought more than just power. They brought knowledge gained from 50 years of fighting cosmic threats. Under their guidance, the Galactic Network learned to do more than just resist the destructive wave. They learned to transform it. This energy that destroys stars, Bora explained through the shared consciousness. It is not evil. It is simply chaotic, uncontrolled. With enough coordination, enough unity, we can redirect it. Instead of destroying life, it can create it. The process was beyond anything the galaxy had ever attempted. It required perfect synchronization between millions of minds across hundreds of thousands of light years. Human consciousness provided the template, but every species contributed their unique abilities. The Marins calculated the complex patterns needed to redirect cosmic energy. The crystalline beings stored and processed impossible amounts of data. The cybernetic species provided the interface between organic thought and technological systems. The Emberfolk, as they had promised, provided the emotional foundation that held everything together. Even the proud Korath contributed, their warrior spirits providing the determination needed to face such a massive challenge. The gentle Sylvans offered their deep understanding of natural harmony. Every species, every world, every individual consciousness added something essential to the effort. Sunja felt the moment when everything clicked into place. The network achieved perfect unity, millions of minds working as one while maintaining their individual identities. The sensation was indescribable, like being part of something infinitely larger than herself while still being completely herself. The destructive wave hit their defenses and stopped. For a moment, cosmic forces beyond imagination held in perfect balance. Then slowly, the dark energy began to change. Instead of extinguishing stars, it began to kindle new ones. The wave of destruction became a wave of creation, spreading life and light instead of darkness and death. It is done, Bora announced, her voice filled with wonder even after 50 years of cosmic guardianship. The threat is ended. But more than that, we have created something beautiful. Sunja looked through the network's senses and saw what they had accomplished. New stars were being born in regions that had been empty void. Planets were forming around them, ready to eventually support life. The energy that would have destroyed their galaxy was instead seeding new galaxies with the potential for countless civilizations. What happens now? Sunja asked. Now we have a choice, Bora replied. The network we have built can be maintained or dissolved. Those who wish can return to their individual existence. Others can remain linked, helping to guard not just our galaxy but others as well. The decision was not difficult for most. Having experienced the unity and purpose of the network, many chose to remain connected. They would become the new guardians, protectors of life on a cosmic scale. But they also established ways for beings to move between individual and network existence, ensuring that no one was trapped in either state. The galaxy would have both types of consciousness, both individual achievement and collective protection. As the immediate crisis passed, the Galactic Council reconvened. But the chamber was very different now. The seats where humans had once sat were filled again, but now they represented all the species who had undergone transformation. The empty space had become a symbol of unity rather than loss. Chancellor Timon, speaking both as an individual and as part of the network, addressed the assembled delegates. 50 years ago, we thought the humans had abandoned us, he said. We were wrong. They had given us the greatest gift possible, the example of what we could become. They showed us that true strength comes not from power over others, but from willing sacrifice for others. Elder Sungmi, now speaking for billions of linked Emberfolk consciousness while still maintaining her individual personality, added her own thoughts. The humans taught us that love is not weakness but the strongest force in the universe. It was love that drove them into the void to protect us. It was love that brought them back when we needed them most. And it is love that will guide us as we protect other galaxies facing similar threats. Sunja felt the truth of those words resonate through the network. Across the galaxy, beings who had been enemies were now working together. Species that had fought for millions of years were sharing knowledge and resources. The unity forged in crisis was becoming the foundation for a new type of civilization. The transformed defenders had already begun reaching out to other galaxies, sharing their knowledge and offering protection. The message they sent was the same one humans had tried to teach them decades earlier: that strength comes from unity, that true advancement means lifting others up, and that love is the force that binds the universe together. In the final moments of the crisis, Sunja found herself standing in the observation deck of her ship, looking out at the stars. But now she could see them not just with her eyes but with the enhanced perception of the network. Every star was connected to every other star. Every world teemed with the potential for life. Every being, individual or linked, was part of an infinite web of consciousness and care. Captain Bora's presence touched her mind one more time. "Welcome to the larger universe," she said warmly. "Welcome to the community of Guardians. The work we do here will spread to other galaxies, other dimensions, other forms of life we cannot yet imagine. Humanity's gift was not technology or tactics. It was the understanding that we are all connected, all responsible for each other's welfare." Sunja smiled, feeling the truth of those words in every part of her being. The galaxy was no longer just a collection of competing species. It had become something greater, a community of consciousness dedicated to protecting and nurturing life throughout the cosmos. The humans had come home, but they had brought the entire galaxy home with them.